In the first video, we put together the base mount. Now we're going to put together, this is going to be the anchor locker mount. So this is the one that you're going to install your anchor locker on. So if we look down here, we'll see that we've got a jam cleat. Here's a spacer for the jam cleat. Got some 2-inch blocks. Here are 2 of them, they're identical. And a 5-inch block. And then we have 2 of the dovetail rails. Now what's important about these dovetail rails is although they're pretty much identical, one of them has 2 pockets machined into them, and we'll get into what those are for later. I blackened them with a pin so that you can make sure you see what I'm talking about. The other one does not have that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start. This is actually the top of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in the one that doesn't have the marks on it. We'll put that one on first. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put those parts on. And again, like I said in my other video, I'm not using inhibitor for the video because it's messy and it takes longer. I'm just going to quickly try to assemble this. So we're going to put one of the internal tooth lock washers on each one of these holes with these 7/8 flathead machine screws. Okay, and to speed it up, I'm just going to run it down with a gun real quick. Okay, so that one's installed here. Now the next one, it's important, those marks that I showed you, when we put that together, you'll see that there are these 4 holes. That's where these blocks are going to go, and those 2 pockets need to face out towards that just like this. So I'll show you once I get this one together. This one we're not using lock washers on because they really don't work that well with it, because the hole is slightly slotted for adjustment purposes. So whoops, I'm not going to use those, I said. So I'm going to put those on with the 7/8 flathead machine screws. And we're going to run these down. And then I'm going to back each one of these off after I get them ran down. Okay, now I'm going to back them all off. Just slightly, because that is our adjustment point. Okay, we don't want them backed off very much, but as you can see, here are those pockets right here facing here. So now we're going to take each one of these blocks, and they're going to get first one of the jam nuts on this 1.5-inch pan head machine screw. I'm going to run that on here like this. And these will run on like this. Okay, we don't want to put them on too far to start with. So those line up with these holes. Same thing, we're going to use the washers and the flathead machine screws. Might have ran that in there a little too far. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to do the exact same thing again. One of the 1.5-inch pan head machine screws with a little jam nut on it there, just like that. These go like this. You'll notice that these blocks have one hole threaded in the center, and then the other 2 holes of course line up with those other holes. So pretty simple how they go. So here's the next set of those. Okay, and we'll use the last 2 of these 7/8 flathead machine screws. So that's set up. Now we're going to go ahead and throw on our jam cleat. And before we put the jam cleat on, we're going to want to have this. Let's see. Let's start with this piece here. We'll go ahead and put this in. Same thing. We're going to run We're going to run a jam nut onto these 1.5-inch machine screws, like so. Just like we did over here on the sides. This is another adjustment point. And we're going to run these through. Okay. Another one. Now, this adjustment piece will go on the bottom here, and it's going to go just like this. You're going to want the head of this to slide in right here and goes through this hole. Okay, and then we got a nylock nut. We're just going to start that on there for right now. It's important to have that on first, because when you put this piece in, it actually holds that nut to the side right there. It's a pretty good fit. And then, so we put our spacer in next that holds this jam cleat, and you'll notice that the jam cleat is which way it's grooved, so that when it comes in here, it holds the rope from the one direction. We're going to use 2 1.8". Now I would either use some Loctite on these threads, or I'd use the Never Seas on them. Gotta find the right spot here. Get started. Yeah, I'm not getting lined up. I'm trying to do this for the video so that it can be seen and I can't see what I'm doing here. There we go. Now it started. Now let's get the back one in. And again, these were 1.8". The other ones that we used, those were 7/8 of an inch long. So, okay, that's on. Now we have 2 stop bolts to put in. They go in from the underside right here. So we turn this over, and you'll see there's 2 aluminum spacers. Put an aluminum spacer on, put these on, it's like this. Okay, so that's all. Now, we're going to go ahead and take this piece and flop it back out of the way. We're going to take our base mount that we've already assembled, and we're going to slide it right in here. Okay, so what we got to do is we've got to make this so that it falls all the way down against the stops. Then by turning this upside down like this, we want this to fit tight. It needs to be an interference fit. So once we have this adjustment, we can lock these down. Same thing back here. We want it to fit tight. And that's adjusted, okay? So now, when that's adjusted, it's going to be a little sticky, and that's what we want. We want it to be a little sticky so it's an interference fit. Okay? This piece here swings around, and I'm going to have to back these off a little bit. Till this back bar then has a knob that goes in through here, just like this. I'm still too tight. Yeah. There we go. Now, what we're going to do with these bolts is we're going to just run them up just till they touch, and then we're going to lock these down with a wrench. Same over here. We're going to run this down until it's up against the bars on this base mount, and then we lock those down, and that's the adjustment to it. Now, it's very possible that when you bolt your base mount down, if it's not super flat, it may want to it may need to be readjusted. It's very important when this is mounted to the boat that this stay flat. If you've got a bow that's got an arch in it, you're going to need to shim this up somehow so that it lays flat, because if you distort this mount, this isn't going to want to freely slide in and out. Another thing that I would like to mention is that with this setup, so now is to put a little bit of like white lithium grease on these rails. It makes it easier for it to come on and off. And so basically that's it. Now your anchor locker would bolt in these 4 bolts. I'm not going to bother to do that because that's a pretty simple thing, and you've got the bolts here, comes with it to mount your anchor locker. This hole back here is actually for putting a padlock through, so that when this is on, if you have a padlock through here, you can't get it apart, so they can't just walk up. And otherwise, the only thing it takes to change this out is by just simply removing this one hand bolt with with screw, with no tools, and this all comes apart. So you can see that that's just going to slide right off of there, and then your anchor locker and everything's going to set to the side. So basically the trolling motor mount is put together the exact same way, and I will do it in another video in just a minute. But again, this is your base mount. This would be your anchor locker mount. Your anchor locker bolts are right here. You've got a clam cleat for your anchor locker. Anchor locker would be facing forward. This would be facing towards the operator of the boat, sitting in your boat just like this. Now this is all made from heavy duty 3/8 aluminum. The rails are my standard rails that I sell for my sliding rail system. They are 1/2 inch thick. This is a really robust system. And that's it for the anchor locker removable mount, and we'll do the trolling motor mount next.